Says it's starting. And we are live. Okay.
Yay.
Hey, Ed, thank you very much for joining us on this here in Wisconsin cold blistery night. I don't know how it is there by you.
It's pretty cold. It's not as cold as you guys, but it's cold.
Water's still freezing outside?
Oh, yes.
Oh, that's good. Well, that's cold enough for me.
Ha!
I understand we pulled you away from your shop. You just got back from your shop, working for your fingers to the bone. I'm assuming.
Yes.
Preparing for Transworld.
Yes, in fact, we're just at the initial stages getting our plans figured out because we just got back from another trade show.
Yeah.
And so we're just kind of like trying to get it all going.
Right. Okay, well, let's get right into it then.
Yeah.
And if in a minute or two, would you share the highlights of your career with our honk geeks?
Well, that's 40 years I got to cram into a minute. Well, I think like so many people, I grew up loving monsters, so many people in the industry, loving monsters and watching Outer Limits and things, and got into the business a little bit by accident. I actually had that's such a long story, but basically I got offered a scholarship to make monsters, monster mass and things. And I turned it down because I didn't think I could make money at it. And so I ended up coming to Greeley to be an art teacher and lost a costume contest to a mask I painted. This is the very short version. And the company began, I made the mask and showed it to the Party Palace guy, Jim Faust, and he liked it and wanted to know if I could make more for the store. So the business seemed to like run me down and grab me because I wasn't smart enough to know that's what I was supposed to do, apparently. So I've had such, I've been thinking lately, you work and you have things happen. And I've realized that recently that I've really had a wonderful life making monsters and all that goes with it. Especially when I got into the haunt stuff, because then the monsters came to life. And so it's been 40 years of just crazy experiences and fun and lots of work.
Wow. So when did you actually open your doors, would you say, of Distortions?
Well, we always say the company started in 1978 because that's when I started sculpting Andromeda. But I would say we were really open for business in 79. I think I started selling masks to Party Palace maybe as early as November, December. But when I think it was probably 79 before I really started thinking of Distortions as a company and, treating it as such.
Wow. So it literally 2018, if you go from 78, is 40 years.
Yes,
wow.
That's right. 40 years. Now that's amazing to me because I'm only 26. No, that's not true. You don't even have to laugh at that. That's so stupid. But yes, but
it's just a number, right?
You trust me. In my mind, I'm not old. I'm young. I look in the mirror and it's like, wow, I guess not. But emotionally, mentally, I'm still a monster-loving kid.
Yeah. Well, I think the way most of us feel in the haunt industry, and that probably is what attracts so many people to it, is you can, even if it's just for a couple nights, if you work at a haunted house,
right.
you can just relive your childhood and be somebody you're not in your day-to-day thing. You get to create those things day in, day out. So I can't imagine, how that is, what that kind of feeling is for you.
Well, it's kind of extra special to get to live it all year round. However, the difference is with us and probably the average person that loves Halloween is by the time Halloween gets here, we're shot. And we're like, okay, we're gonna kind of celebrate without really doing much. And so we don't dress up for Halloween, and rarely we have. One Halloween, Marcia and I dressed up as Santa, and Marcia dressed up as the Easter Bunny, and we actually won a costume contest in those crazy costumes.
Wow, that's awesome.
So that was a rare instance. Most of the time, we're like Santa on the 26th.
Now, did you still have the full beard and the white hair like you had?
No, not then.
No.
I was younger. Now I did have I had the white beard and white hair as Santa, which is just a quick funny story. I know I should get on a bunny trail, but I'm dressed as Santa and I'm taking the kids to the mall for trick or treat. They had trick or treat at the mall here in Greeley, and so I'm walking around and I'm realizing, these kids think I'm Santa. I got to stay in character. And so I'm kind of doing that. You've been good and this kind of stuff. Well, then I'm walking in. My youngest was like, probably 3 or 4 or something like that. And so I was holding his hand, carrying around. Well, I'm walking along and I'm holding his hand and I look down. It's not him. It was some girl or boy, I forget, but it was another kid. And I'm like, oh no, this is, it's worse now than it was then. But it's like I'm going to be in trouble. But I don't even know where his parents were. But anyway, he was mesmerized. He was looking at me like, I was some demigod or something. But
sure.
Think
about it this way though. Today he probably remembers that and thinks, man, I was walking around the mall holding Santa Claus's hand.
Boy, I'm sure that meant something. I don't know.
Well, Ed, you gained a place in the Haunted Hall of Fame or Haunted House Hall of Fame when you introduced the shocker or electric chair.
Yes.
Many years ago. What do you remember about bringing that industry icon to life?
Well, it's funny, as so much of this career, you just do things and you have no real big thoughts about it. You don't realize you're changing anything or whatever. You just like, maybe they'll buy this. And so how that came about is we had an attraction at Distortions called Dark Museum. And it was not really a haunted house. It was just, you'd go in the warehouse and I had this environmental monster control box that electrician had made for me that would switch between scenes and turn the lights on. And it was cornball, but different things would come on. And we had squirt guns to squirt people in the dark stuff. It was okay, but it was nothing great. Anyway, I wanted a grand finale. And so we talked about it. I don't know who came up with the idea, but the decision was made we would do an electric chair. And so at the end of this show, this electric chair kicked on, and we didn't know animatronics at all then. So all we knew to do was take a big old motor and a gear reduction box and pulleys, and we just threw this guy around. And so then I added screaming on a cassette player, if you can believe that. Screaming that came on a looping,
I remember those.
like a message tape. It was horrid. And so that would come on, and a strobe light and smoke. And we all thought it was cool and thought, well, shoot, we got to take this to Transworld. And so we did that year. And that was, I believe, I shouldn't try to, no, I don't know. Maybe it was 94, 95, somewhere in that area. And so we took it to Transworld, and I honestly, now it's hard to imagine this now, the world we live in, which is wonderful, by the way, as far as Halloween. But at the time, I couldn't sell a Giger's Alien from the movie Alien for $85. People thought that was just too much money. And,
wow.
You know what's happened to that thing now. I mean, the last one sold for, I think it was $12,000 to.
Oh, yeah.
One of the Metallica guys bought it off eBay. And so but back then it was like, oh, well, that's $170. I'll never sell it. But so a few people bought them, and they bought them like, well, I'll just use it for display. And, nobody would ever spend that much for a mask. And so a terrible time selling. They'd come back the next year and I'd say, so did you sell that mask? And they go, oh, yeah, it sold immediately. And I said, why didn't you buy another one? Right. I said, it was some nerd. He would never, nobody would. And they couldn't get it out of their head. So that's the world that the electric chair entered into. So I thought we'd sell 6. And that first year, we sold over 200.
Wow.
And I think what happened was it was time for the industry to change, but everybody was in a loop. They were just doing the, charity driven. You buy some masks at Kmart and you put up some black plastic, and the JCs, build some walls or whatever. And it really, it was time to change. And I think the chair changed it, because what happened was people bought this. I think the big kid in them wanted it, and they put it in the haunted house. What they discovered was that their attendance shot through the roof. Anybody that bought one of these, their attendance went way up, because what happened was the people with the talk would start. They've got a chair, and then the press would come out, and so then it was like it was over. People were like, wow, these kind of numbers, I can make money doing this. And then it that was the beginning of it becoming a legitimate profit industry. Prior to that, it was not that profitable. It's usually for charities.
Right. Well, so you just with that, like we said, that electric chair shot you into the Haunted House Hall of Fame. You kind of single-handedly helped out a lot of haunts in that era. Then, I mean, just like you said, bringing customers in.
Yes and no. Here's the thing: it was going to happen. It just happened that I was there when it did. It had to happen. That was the trigger, and so it was a good trigger, though, because I think people. It was so shocking. Even the haunters at the haunt show, they knew when you threw the switch that something was going to happen, but they were startled that it was so violent. And so, in fact, they would back up when it's like, what is this? They thought he'd jiggle a little bit. Hey, it hurts, but it was very, very violent. In fact, so violent, we had to replace 100 bodies and ship them for free that first year. So we learned ways to make the head stay on.
Well, I'm sure that was a shock and awe factor, though, as the head flew
it
off.
shocked me. Well, it shocked me when I had to send those bodies. But yes, in fact, everybody was good about it, which was amazing. They would just duct tape it on until they got the new body. And they said, man, if it could do that every time, because we really got them that time.
To see this thing ravishly shaking, and then a head flies off.
It lands in your lap.
Right.
Yeah, I'm sure that got a charge out of people. I wish I could have seen it, but.
Well, you tell them no charge for that, but I'm going to send you a new body.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, Ed, you've done a lot over the years. You've had your own television series on the Travel Channel, which is awesome. Sad to see that that's not still going in full force. You built Halloween scenes for the rich and famous, and you've seen haunt industry grow from rubber masks to the state-of-the-art animatronics and lifelike prosthetics we have now. And every year, Distortions brings something new to the industry. And is there anything that you can give our haunt geeks out there as a sneak peek of what you might bring to the show this year?
First of all, that's top secret. Not really.
Okay.
Here's the real reason. Now, if you've seen the show, you know that we do things like at the last minute. And so we just got back from the New Orleans show. And so we're totally unprepared. We have a few ideas, but nothing cast in stone. I would like to do another Shocktronic. We're seeing the industry change, and we're trying to figure out exactly where it's going and things. But we do know that we're going to, because Transworld's bringing in, which is wonderful. They're bringing in like the escape room guys, and they're also now working on Christmas, because a lot of haunts are doing Christmas later. And so we're going to bring a Christmas display with Santa and Mrs. Claus and some elves, and I know we're doing that.
Awesome.
And we also have a new Frightronic tombstone and corpse guy, which I don't even know his name, but he turned out really good. So we're going to do a cemetery scene, but honestly, I don't know yet. We
It's
don't.
so top secret that not even you know what
They won't even let me know, or they'd have to kill me.
Well, you mentioned the Christmas thing. I remember last year at Transworld, when they brought Christmas there, a lot of people were, kind of like, what is this doing, here at
Right.
this huge haunted house and Halloween show? But I think you're right. It's a trend that's going to start happening because more haunts that are permanent haunts are looking to produce more revenue and get people in the door for, now everybody's doing Valentine's and St. Patrick's Day, any holiday that they can twist in an
Yes.
evil way. They're doing it. And I think they're not all doing that for Christmas. A lot of them are just flipping it so that even it can be a family event. But I
Yes.
think it is a trend that you're seeing now.
No, and I think it was wise of Transworld to do that, because if that's what that audience is doing or going towards, that it needs to be addressed. Even though it is very strange to have friendly Christmas things with Halloween, but
Right.
Nightmare Before Christmas, I guess maybe is the best comparison. But yes,
Yeah. Well, we all like that show.
yeah.
So why do you and Marcia continue to make that pilgrimage to Transworld every year?
Well, I guess it's a habit, because I think I was at the very first Transworld, and there's not many people in that hall that can say that. Now, Phil Morris he's just passed. Jim Lawrence was there. I'm not sure who else, but it's improved so dramatically. I guess the reason we do it is that's probably the biggest, best, most profitable show in the industry. And they have, I don't know, Jen and everybody has just really, really listened to the haunters. And back in the day, now this goes back, prior to St. Louis, which is now 10 years.
10 years, yeah.
And back in the day, it was very much retail first, and the haunters were the redheaded stepchild, and they were kind of like, oh, you're too smoky, you're too loud, put them over here, put them upstairs. And so the shift being the haunters first, and it's all about the haunters, and then there's some, when the tentacles go out, maybe there's some retail things that have application or costumes or this and that. But having the show be about haunts and reaching out, like we just talked about Christmas, whatever haunts need, that it's just, there's nothing like it, and there's nothing bigger. And the people that come are the big buyers. I mean, it's really an excellent show.
Well, you kind of touched on the next question a little bit already about, but it's how has Transworld evolved over the years you have been there as an exhibitor?
It's one time I was at Transworld in Chicago, and I accidentally walked into the room that the Halloween portion was stuck in, and it was like, it wasn't a closet, but it was a very, very small room. And I was like, wow, this is the room that it was in that first year. It was so puny. I mean, it started as a gift and housewares show or something like that. And somebody had the idea of adding Halloween to it. And so it was really nothing like what it is now. I mean, in fact, at the time we had just premiered Shadow Series, I believe, and we had some Shadow Series on some white plastic shelves, those cheap little shelves you buy, and we put them out there, and it's like so tacky and so small. It just, but it was the beginning, and it evolved into what it is.
Yeah, and like you said, it was in Chicago, and I think it was a party show, right? That
Yes.
sold like balloons and different stuff just for parties, right?
Yeah, it was, but they had done this little room of Halloween, and it was the room was all Halloween.
Oh, okay. Well, Ed, thank you so much for taking time out of the end of your busy day and sitting down with all of us haunt geeks, giving us a little insight on what Distortions is preparing to do. And as I told you before, this is called The Road to Transworld Uncut. So we're not editing this or anything like that. So any funny things or quirks that happen, it is what it is. But
yeah,
thank you so much. And
thank you, Chad.
Is there any little advice you can give our haunt geeks as we prepare to go to Transworld?
Well, I would just try to scout. One of the things I've noticed as I've walked the hall is you miss stuff. You have to spend some time in people's booths and really look around. You can't just, oh, nothing there for me, and walk. Sometimes there's really cool stuff that you just walk past.
Right.
And so I would recommend that they give themselves enough time and really slow down and look at things thoroughly, talk to people, make sure they're not missing anything, because there's an awful lot there.
Yeah, you're so correct. And I think this year the floor is bigger than it's ever been. It keeps growing every year. I don't know how much more we can actually fit in that area, but you're right, because each aisle is jam-packed with vendors. Some of them large like yourself, and some of them very small. So if you're running through those aisles, just seeing something that grabs your eye, you're right, you're going to miss something.
No, you're going to miss so much. But that means you've got to allow enough time and move slow enough to really look thoroughly at what everybody's got to offer, because there's some amazing stuff out there.
All right, Ed, I won't take any more of your time. Thank you again for joining us and entertaining our haunt geeks for this little time. We'll see you at Transworld.
Yay. All right. Bye-bye, guys.
Bye-bye.